The afternoon sun cast a golden hue over the vast Kavirondo Gulf, overlooking the mighty Lake Victoria, where the name Okech Kembo, Obiero's father, carried weight across cascading villages, from Papkawigo in Gemasumbi to Oluch Kimera. Okech was not just any chief, he was a man of legacy, a leader par excellence, revered for his wisdom and influence that stretched far beyond their home. His son, Obiero, was the natural heir to this great lineage, but today, the burdens of life felt heavier than ever. Obiero trudged down the familiar path from Akinyi's homestead, the sting of their latest argument still fresh in his mind. Akinyi had changed. Once a gentle and loving soul, her insatiable appetite for money had transformed her into someone Obiero hardly recognized. Her temper flared at the slightest inconvenience, and her sharp tongue had left Obiero reeling more than once. Today's altercation had been the worst. Her demands had reached a boiling point, and Obiero had stormed out of her compound, feeling more restless than ever. As he approached the bustling market, the aroma of fried fish wafted through the air, a sharp contrast to his sour mood. His stomach grumbled, reminding him that he hadn't eaten since morning. He made his way to Minkado's small restaurant, a local spot known for its delicious kwon and fried tilapia, hoping the meal would soothe his troubled mind. Obiero slumped into a corner seat, ordering his usual, fried fish with a steaming plate of kwon. As the food arrived, he absent-mindedly began to eat, but his heart wasn't in it. Akinyi's harsh words echoed in his mind, each bite tasting blander than the last. Frustrated, he pushed his plate away halfway through the meal, his appetite gone. Leaving behind his sunglasses on the table, Obiero rose from his seat and stormed out, his thoughts still consumed by the turmoil Akinyi had stirred. Not long after Obiero left, Hawi, a street girl who had wandered the village unnoticed for days, entered the restaurant. She had not eaten in what felt like an eternity, and her eyes lit up when she saw the half-eaten plate of fish and kuon. The growling in her stomach was unbearable, and with no other choice, she cautiously approached the table, glancing around to see if anyone noticed her. When no one did, she began to devour the food, her hunger overpowering her sense of fear and dignity. Just as Hawi was finishing the meal, the door swung open, and Obiero marched back into the restaurant, realizing he had forgotten his sunglasses. His eyes fell on the girl sitting at his table, and rage flared within him. "What do you think you're doing?" Obiero's voice boomed across the small space, startling Hawi as she dropped the fishbone she was holding. Please forgive me," Hawi stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I haven't eaten in days. I was just so hungry." Obiero's anger did not wane. He couldn't see beyond his frustration, the weight of his argument with Akinyi still pressing on his shoulders. "You think you can just walk in and take what doesn't belong to you? Get out before I—" Hawi flinched, tears welling up in her eyes. She had faced many hardships in her young life, but this was something else. I'm sorry, she repeated, backing away from the table. As Obiero stood there, glaring at her, something shifted. He saw the desperation in her eyes, her frail frame, and the sorrow that seemed to cling to her like a shadow. He took a breath, his anger slowly dissolving into a strange mix of guilt and pity. Without saying another word, he sat down, his hand resting on the sunglasses he had come back for, but his mind no longer on them. He watched as Hawi shuffled away, her small frame disappearing into the busy market outside. Obiero sighed, sinking back into his chair, but the real hunger that gnawed at him had nothing to do with food. That evening, Obiero returned home, still simmering from the confrontation. His mind drifted back to Akinyi and the words she had thrown at him. Akinyi was overwhelmingly temperamental, irrational, and quite judgmental. She hardly took responsibility for anything, but sought validation at every turn. Why is it that she doesn't listen to my perspective? Obiero wondered. In a moment of frustration, he had made a promise to himself, to never let anyone take advantage of him again. But as he watched the ripples in the water from their balcony, a voice deep within him questioned if that promise was worth the cost of his humanity. Later, as night fell, Obiero picked up his bull drum. He loved playing the drum, and he immediately remembered the impending community gathering at the village square. It was another season when the community celebrated the bumper harvest from their fields and poured libation in thanksgiving to their gods for the continued fertility of their lands. So people came together to eat and make merry while elders, over a drink of busaya, the local brew, advised the youth about the need to safeguard their lineages and the future of the community. It was an important event. He needed a companion, as it was a tradition to share in the festivities, but he couldn't face Akinyi after their quarrel. Then, an unexpected thought crossed his mind. Hawi. Though she lived on the streets, Hawi had a spirit that shone through her struggles. Perhaps, he thought, if she cleaned herself up, she could join him at the gathering and provide the company he needed. It seemed a crazy idea, but it filled him with a sense of purpose. After a serious thought, Obiero resolved to set out the following morning to find Hawi and apologize to her. "I'm not here to hurt you again," Obiero said quickly, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I've come to apologize. I was wrong to shout at you. I need your help for a special event." Hawi crossed her arms, suspicion written across her face. "Why would I help you after how you treated me?" Obiero took a deep breath, knowing he had to be honest. "I'm asking you to join me at the village gathering. In this event, it is absurd to go alone because the kind of advice elders will give here is majorly reserved for couples, and I'm not on talking terms with my girlfriend, Akinyi. I could use a friend, and I promise to pay you well for your time. It's more than you can imagine." Hawi hesitated, the allure of the offer battling with her lingering distrust. "You expect me to believe you after what happened?" she scoffed. Obiero nodded. "I know it sounds ridiculous, but you have a beauty that deserves to be seen, and I'm willing to make it worth your while." After a long pause, Hawi's resolve began to crumble. The thought of attending the gathering, even with someone she didn't fully trust, was tempting. "Fine," she said, her voice steely, "but only for the money. I'm not doing this for you," she declared. Obiero felt a rush of relief wash over him. "That's fair," he replied, the plan taking shape in his mind. Everything was on top gear for the festival. Finally, the day was here, and that afternoon, Hawi visited a makeup artist to prepare her for the occasion. She stood in front of the mirror and was bewildered at her makeover. The kitenge, traditional dress Obiero had bought for her, was graceful, something she had never imagined wearing. Her hair had been done up neatly, her eyebrows well trimmed and her face beaming with life and hope for the hidden treasures that remained only a distant mirage. When Obiero finally arrived to pick her up, his jaw dropped in awe when he saw her. For a moment, he never uttered a word, just staring at her in disbelief. She looked more gorgeous than he had ever imagined. In fact, Obiero decided to give Hawi one of the phones he rarely used. This way, he would contact Hawi any time he needed her help. They arrived at the party, and as soon as they walked in, all eyes were on them, and people whispered, "The son of our great chief has gotten someone so adorable. Long live Chief Okech Kembo's legacy." Throughout the night, guests kept approaching Obiero, asking him the whereabouts of Akinyi and who exactly his amazing date was. He only smiled, keeping the truth to himself, simply introducing her as Hawi, meaning luck. Obiero's father, Chief Okech Kembo, was a man deeply rooted in Luo traditions. He was also known and respected across the cascading villages of the greater Kavirondo Gulf for his business acumen and vast estates. He believed in the power of family, community, and responsibility, and nothing was more important to him than ensuring the future of their lineage. One evening, after calling Obiero home to their lakeside homestead, Chief Okech Kembo sat him down under the acacia tree where he had once been taught life's lessons by his own father. The setting sun painted the sky with hues of gold as Chief Okech Kembo spoke, his voice steady and filled with expectation. "Obiero, the time has come. You need to find a wife," Chief Okech Kembo declared firmly. His eyes, still sharp despite his age, were fixed on his son. Obiero was taken aback. Though he respected his father immensely, he had not expected such a demand. "Baba, is this really necessary? I am still young." "There is time," Obiero replied, his heart racing. Chief Okech Kembo shook his head. "You are the firstborn son. The responsibility of continuing our family's legacy rests on you. Without a wife, I will not hand over the family business to you. This is not just about our wealth, it's about our traditions." Obiero felt the weight of his father's words. He knew the importance of family in the Luo culture, but he wasn't ready. He had never imagined his father would place such a condition on his inheritance. Where would he find a woman to marry in such a short time? As he pondered the situation, Howie's face flashed in his mind. She was a woman of resilience, someone who had weathered the storms of life with strength and grace. They had met under unexpected circumstances, and though their bond wasn't romantic, Obiero felt she might help him. A new day came, and the soft glow of the morning sun spilled into Obiero's home, casting long shadows on the ground. He hadn't slept. His mind had been a battlefield of emotions, thoughts darting between Akinyi's newfound temperamental behavior, his father's wishes, and the unexpected presence of Howie. He stood by the window, watching as the village stirred awake. The birds sang their familiar songs, but to Obiero, their melody carried a new weight, a heaviness that gnawed at his conscience. How had things gotten so complicated? He thought of Akinyi, with her laughter that echoed like bells in his heart, and her delicate touch that always put him at ease. She was everything he had ever known, a comfort like the warm winds that swept through their village, steady and reassuring. They had plans, shared dreams of a life together, growing old beneath the same sun that now seemed to judge him. But Howie, wild and free like the untamed waters of Lake Victoria, had stirred something unfamiliar in him. She was different, an enigma wrapped in hardship, and her presence had set his life on a path he could not have predicted. As the day stretched out before him, Obiero felt the weight of the choices he would soon have to make. His father's voice rang in his ears from the previous evening. "It's time, son. A family is built on decisions, not delays. Choose wisely." He closed his eyes and leaned backward, breathing deeply, feeling the pulse of the village, the rhythm of life continuing without pause for his inner turmoil. The fields still needed tending, the fish markets still buzzed with activity, and the children still played, blissfully unaware of the adult dilemmas surrounding them. But what of Howie, he wondered, the image of her fierce yet vulnerable eyes lingering in his mind. She had revealed little of herself during their first meeting, but her silence spoke volumes. There was a mystery there, a story untold, and Obiero found himself inexplicably drawn to it. She was not like the other girls in the village. She had seen more of life's darker sides, and despite that, she held herself with a quiet strength that intrigued him. What would my father say if he knew about her? Obiero thought. His father, a man bound by the Luo tradition and a business magnate of regional repute, would never approve of someone from the streets. He had made that clear. Yet Obiero knew he could not simply cast Howie aside like a fleeting thought. That morning, as he prepared to leave the house, Obiero made a decision. He had to see Howie again. Not because he was choosing her over Akinyi, but because there was something unresolved between them. Something that felt bigger than just a passing encounter. The narrow path leading to the heart of the village seemed longer than usual, every step heavy with doubt. Obiero's feet kicked up dust as he walked, hands deep in his pockets, eyes focused on the horizon. He had told Akinyi he would see her later, but in truth, he didn't know what to say to her. How could he explain the confusion swirling inside him without breaking her heart? Just as the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a harsh light on the day, Obiero reached the edge of the market. He scanned the bustling crowd, looking for any sign of Hawi, though he knew her presence would be hard to miss. Hawi was not one to blend in. She moved like the wind, swift, invisible, until she wanted to be seen. As if summoned by his thoughts, he caught a glimpse of her, sitting by the old Ciala tree that stood tall near the river's edge. She was braiding a young girl's hair, her hands moving expertly, quickly, as the little one sat still, eyes wide with admiration. Hawi's face was calm, her features softened in concentration, and for a moment, Obiero saw a side of her he hadn't before, a nurturing, almost maternal side. He approached slowly, unsure of how to start. His heart beat faster as he drew closer, the words forming in his throat, but never quite leaving his lips. It was Hawi who spoke first. "You're back," she said without looking up, her voice steady, as if she had expected him. Obiero cleared his throat. "I wanted to see you again." Hawi finished the braid and tied it off before standing, brushing the dust from her skirt. "I'm not sure why. There's nothing left to say." "I think there is," Obiero replied, stepping forward. "I can't stop thinking about what you said last time, about finding someone who truly understands." Hawi's eyes, dark and guarded, met his, and for a second she seemed to let her walls down. "I've learned to live without expecting much from people, Obiero. The world isn't kind to those of us who don't fit in." Obiero took a deep breath. "I'm not like most people, Hawi. I don't know what it is about you, but I feel like there's more to your story, and I want to understand it." Hawi sighed, looking away toward the river, its waters glistening under the sun. "Understanding won't change anything. You have a life, a future planned with someone else. I'm just someone passing through. But what if I want to change that?" Obiero's voice was barely above a whisper, but Hawi heard him clearly. Her posture stiffened. "You don't know what you're saying," she said, shaking her head. "Your life is set. Don't complicate it with someone like me." "I'm not afraid of complications," Obiero countered, stepping closer. "I just want to know, what's holding you back? Why are you so convinced that you don't deserve more?" Hawi's eyes flashed with something, a mix of anger and pain. "Because life has taught me that wanting more is dangerous. You reach for the stars, and you get burned." Obiero fell silent. He could sense the battle raging within her, the scars of her past cutting deeper than she let on. But he also felt a growing conviction inside him, a sense that their fates were somehow intertwined, even if neither of them fully understood it yet. "Let me in," he said softly, almost pleading. For a long moment, Hawi didn't respond. Her gaze remained fixed on the river as if searching for answers in its flowing waters. Then, finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Meet me at the riverbank tonight after dark. If you really want to know my story, I'll tell you then." And so, as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, and the village settled into the quiet hum of evening, Obiero found himself once again at a crossroads. The choices before him were not as simple as they once seemed. Love, tradition, loyalty, and curiosity swirled together in a storm that threatened to consume him. Little did he know, by the time the moon rose, his world would be changed forever. That evening, Hawi narrated to Obiero how she lost her parents in a tragic road accident, and would later be rejected by close relatives who superstitiously believed her parents sacrificed their lives for the occult. This is how she started living on the streets. Obiero was sad, but he had to explain to Hawi the real purpose for which he needed her. She thought their arrangement, helping him by attending the community festivities, was long over. Obiero explained the situation. He needed her to pose as his fiancée for his father to hand over the family business to him. Though initially hesitant, Hawi listened carefully as he promised her more financial support, a safe place to stay, and a chance to escape her current struggles. She considered the offer. It was tempting. The idea of no longer living hand-to-mouth, of having security, was too good to refuse. "Fine," Hawi finally said, her voice calm yet resolute. "I'll help you." With the deal in place, Hawi prepared herself for what would come next. Obiero made sure she had everything she needed, from a place to live to the financial assistance he had promised. Days passed, and soon it was time for Obiero to introduce Hawi to his family. The thought of facing his father's scrutiny weighed heavily on him. He knew the stakes. If his father did not believe in their relationship, he could lose everything: the family business, his future, and his standing in the community. When the day arrived, Obiero drove to pick up Hawi. She had transformed once again, not just in appearance, but in demeanor. Gone was the uncertainty of their first meeting. She exuded confidence, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As they reached the homestead, Chief Okech Kembo stood waiting, his arms crossed and his eyes piercing as he watched them approach. The village elders had already begun murmuring about Obiero bringing someone home, and Chief Okech Kembo's curiosity was piqued. He wondered who this mysterious woman was. Hawi greeted Chief Okech Kembo with a respectful bow, her voice steady as she complimented the homestead. She spoke in a manner that both honored the elders and exuded humility. Every word was carefully chosen, her every gesture reflecting the deep respect she had for Luo traditions. The old man studied her closely, his skepticism slowly fading as Hawi answered his questions with grace and intelligence. By the end of the evening, Chief Okech Kembo had softened. "Obiero," he said quietly, pulling his son aside. "This Hawi, she is a woman of substance. You have chosen well, my son." Obiero was stunned. His father, who was known to be impossible to please, had been completely won over by Hawi's charm and poise. The pressure that had been weighing on him lifted, and for the first time in weeks, Obiero felt a sense of relief. Hawi played her role flawlessly throughout the night, laughing at the right moments, sharing stories that captivated Obiero's father, and even gaining the admiration of other family members. However, as they left the homestead that night, a lingering thought troubled Obiero. When they arrived at Hawi's new apartment, he turned to her with a serious expression. "Thank you for what you did tonight," he said. "You were incredible. But I want to make something clear. This arrangement is just for show. I don't love you. I mean, I have no romantic feelings for you. I can't offer you more than what we agreed on." Hawi smiled faintly, her eyes betraying no emotion. "Obiero, I know. This isn't about love for me either. I'm doing this for the money and the chance to escape my humiliating past. As long as you keep your word, I will play my part." Their understanding solidified, and for a moment, Obiero felt reassured. However, the peace was short-lived. Days later, Chief Okech Kembo called again, insisting that Hawi spends the weekend at the homestead. His fondness for her had only grown, and he wanted to get to know her better. For a moment, Obiero felt a tightening in his chest. This was becoming more complicated than he had anticipated. The more time his father spent with Hawi, the deeper the bond would grow, and the harder it would be to walk away from the deception. As they arrived back at the family home for the weekend, Chief Okech Kembo greeted Hawi with open arms. He was thrilled to have her back, praising her intelligence and grace. However, Obiero's mother was not so easily convinced. From the moment Hawi stepped through the door, Obiero's mother's eyes followed her every move with suspicion. There was something about Hawi that bothered her. Yes, something was off. Perhaps it was the way she carried herself, or maybe it was something deeper, an instinct that told Hawi that all was not as it seemed. As the weekend wore on, Obiero's mother's doubts grew. She felt like she had seen Hawi before, but she couldn't place where. The tension between Hawi and Obiero's mother was palpable, though unspoken. Hawi played her part well, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Obiero's mother was onto her. Still, the money and the promise of a better life were enough to keep her in the game, at least for now. By the end of the weekend, Chief Okechkembo was talking about wedding plans, excited for the day when Obiero and Hawi would officially join together in matrimony. Obiero, trapped by his own lies, could only smile and nod, knowing that sooner or later the truth would come to light, and when it did, there would be no escaping the consequences. As Obiero drove Hawi back to her new apartment, a heavy sense of anxiety crept into his thoughts. The make-believe they were pulling off was becoming more entangled with each passing day. His father had made it clear that marriage was expected, and Akinyi, his girlfriend, had already begun to grow suspicious of his sudden distance. Meanwhile, Hawi, though playing her role flawlessly, was unpredictable. She wasn't someone Obiero could depend on for the long haul, but he knew his father wouldn't hand over the family business unless he followed through with his conditions. Hawi, on the other hand, was already planning how to milk this arrangement for as long as possible. The promise of more money was too good to ignore, and the comfortable apartment was a far cry from her days on the street. She had no intention of walking away until she had squeezed every benefit from this strange partnership. Meanwhile, Akinyi, Obiero's longtime girlfriend, felt uneasy. Lately, Obiero had become distant, rarely returning her calls, making half-hearted excuses for missing their usual meetups, and his attention had wavered. Something was off, and Akinyi could feel it deep within her bones. It didn't take long for her to find out the reason behind Obiero's change in behavior. Rumors reached her ears that Obiero had been seen with Hawi, the same street girl he had once scoffed at in the marketplace. Furious and hurt, Akinyi decided to confront Hawi directly. She couldn't believe that Obiero had brought this girl into their lives, let alone involved her in such a deception. After hearing the full story, she went straight to the apartment Obiero had arranged for Hawi. When Hawi swung the door open, Akinyi's anger erupted. "You have no right to be with Obiero," Akinyi fumed. "He's my boyfriend, and this nonsense has gone on long enough." Hawi stood silently, her gaze meeting Akinyi's fiery eyes with a cool, collected calmness. She had expected this confrontation, knowing it was only a matter of time before Akinyi caught wind of the situation. "I don't need your permission to be anywhere," Hawi replied, her voice steady and unshaken by Akinyi's outburst. "Whatever's going on between you and Obiero is your business. But he made me an offer, and I took it." Akinyi's face flushed with anger. "An offer? What kind of offer?" she demanded. Hawi shrugged. "One that benefits us both. He needed someone to play a role, and I needed money. It's as simple as that." Akinyi clenched her fists, her mind racing. "So you're just using him for his money? Do you even care about him at all?" Hawi's expression softened for a moment, but only briefly. "I care about survival," she said quietly. "Obiero's feelings don't matter. This arrangement, this game, isn't about love or care. It's about getting what I need, and I think Obiero knows that too." Akinyi was taken aback. She had expected a fight, but not this blunt honesty. "You're playing with fire," Akinyi warned. "Obiero is not someone you can manipulate like this. And when he realizes what you're after, you'll be left with nothing." Hawi smiled faintly, her eyes betraying a hint of sadness. "We'll see about that," she replied. "But for now, this is my life, and I'll do what I have to." You may love him, Akinyi, but that doesn't change the fact that he came to me. Akinyi's face hardened, her jaw clenched. I won't let you ruin what we have, she said with finality, before turning and storming out of the apartment, leaving Howie standing in the doorway, watching her go. As the door clicked shut, Howie let out a deep sigh. The tension in the air was thick, and she knew the situation was spiraling out of control. She had entered this arrangement with Obiero for the money, but now it felt like the lines were beginning to blur. And the truth was, she wasn't sure how long she could keep up the facade before it all came crashing down. Akinyi's heart sunk at Howie's words. Obiero chose to bring me home, not you. So if anyone's desperate, it's you, clinging onto someone who's clearly not interested in you anymore. She got hurt, really hurt. She had hoped to rattle Howie, to make her back off, but instead, she felt humiliated. Her confidence shattered. She had to leave, but she wasn't done fighting. Deep down, she knew that something was wrong with the whole arrangement, and Howie's arrogance only fueled her determination to uncover the truth. As Akinyi walked away, her mind raced with thoughts of betrayal and revenge. She wasn't about to give up on Obiero, or let this street girl take what was rightfully hers. The battle had only just begun, and Akinyi vowed to expose the lies and get Obiero back before it was too late. Back at Howie's apartment, she watched Akinyi leave, still sneering. She knew that the situation was getting messier, but for now, she had everything she needed: money, comfort, and control. Little did she know, however, that Akinyi wasn't the only one planning to turn the tables. Obiero too was torn between his family's expectations, his relationship with Akinyi, and the increasingly complicated arrangement with Howie, and found himself trapped in a web of deceit. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was losing control of the very game he had started. As the days passed, tensions continued to rise, and the weight of Obiero's choices loomed over him like a dark cloud. His father's plans for a wedding, Akinyi's growing suspicions, and Howie's quiet resilience all collided in a storm that was building, threatening to sweep them all away. Obiero knew that sooner or later he would have to make a choice. But with so much at stake, would he follow his heart, or would he continue down the path he had started, risking everything in the process? Only time would tell. Meanwhile, Akinyi couldn't believe it when she heard that Obiero had proposed to Howie, a disgraceful outlier. It felt like a nightmare, and she refused to accept it. Furious and desperate, she went to see Obiero's mother one last time, hoping to turn her against Howie. Akinyi ranted about how Howie wasn't good enough for Obiero, the son of the great Chief Okech Kembo, who was extensively revered for his business acumen and vast wealth. How she was just a poor girl from the streets who didn't belong in their family. But this time, Obiero's mother looked at Akinyi differently. She wasn't angry or upset. Instead, she calmly said, "Akinyi, I only want what's best for my son, and right now, that's Howie. I see how happy she makes him, and that's all that matters." Akinyi was shocked. She had been so sure she could convince Obiero's mother to stop the wedding. But now, she realized she had lost. Defeated and embarrassed, Akinyi left the house, her heart heavy with regret. She knew there was no way to break Obiero and Howie apart anymore. A week later, she packed her bags and left the country, hoping to start over somewhere far away. She had lost Obiero forever, and she couldn't bear the thought of watching him be happy with someone else. With Akinyi gone, the storm that had surrounded Obiero and Howie finally cleared. Their love, once doubted and challenged, was now free to grow and blossom. 2 months later, Obiero and Howie stood before their family and close friends as they exchanged their solemn vows. The ceremony took place in the heart of Chief Okech Kembo's extensively manicured gardens, surrounded by the beauty of nature and God's purposeful love. Howie wore a simple but elegant white dress that swathed her slender and curvy body, making her glow in beauty, and Obiero, dressed in traditional attire with a whisk in his hand, couldn't stop smiling. As they exchanged vows, Obiero realized how much he had changed. The girl who had once been part of his plan was now the love of his life. He looked into Howie's eyes, filled with gratitude and love. Howie, too, was overwhelmed with emotion. She had come so far, from a girl struggling to survive on the streets eating from the forgotten trash bins, to standing here with Obiero, the man who loved her for who she truly was. After the ceremony, under the soft glow of lanterns, Obiero's father raised a toast. He spoke of Howie's strength, humility, and kindness, welcoming her into the family with pride. Even Obiero's mother, who had once been so against their love, wiped away tears as she listened. She had come to understand with profound acceptance that Howie was no longer just the street girl she once feared and despised. She was now her daughter, part of their family. As the night continued, Obiero and Howie found a quiet spot away from the celebration. Sitting together, gazing up at the stars, Obiero took Howie's hand and smiled. "You've changed everything, Howie," he said softly. "I never thought I could love someone like this. I'm so grateful you came into my life." Howie smiled back, her heart full of warmth. "I'll always be here, Obiero, by your side," she whispered. "We've faced so much together, and we'll face whatever comes next, together." In the weeks that followed, Obiero's father officially handed over not only the family business to him. Chief Okech Kembo also showed him the extent of their vast land that stretched to the distant home of Nyakiti Wonogutu, where the skies kissed the fresh waters of the Great Lake Victoria at sunset. With Howie by his side, Obiero felt ready for anything. Howie, who had once struggled to survive, now became a true partner to Obiero. She brought new ideas and fresh perspectives, helping Obiero run the business empire in ways he had never imagined. She wasn't just his wife. She was his equal, his friend, and his greatest supporter. Their love was strong, built on trust and respect, and as they looked towards the future, they knew that together they could face any challenge. But dear listeners, is this truly the end? What challenges might still be waiting for Obiero and Howie as they build their new life together? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this story, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Because in every great journey, there's always another chapter waiting to be written. Stay blessed, and see you soon for the next story.